Welcome to the simpliHOM podcast, where we educate, inspire, and entertain real estate entrepreneurs seeking a casual and practical podcast. We're here to simplify your life and business.
You can find growth anywhere. And as long as you have an open mind and take those opportunities to learn, then you're going to grow from it.
The easiest thing too is just always being in your zone of genius. What you are passionate about and are good at.
The mindset shift is drastic when you're thinking of I am this person as opposed to I want to become or one day I will be is huge.
I feel like a lot of real estate companies have been putting a focus on themselves, basically. Recently, we've been putting it on the agents, and that's when our socials have been doing the best. It's become really personal, and we've gotten a lot more traction.
What's up, guys?
Oh my God.
Welcome back. I'm back.
We didn't have story time.
What? Oh, I know. I listened to the podcast.
We did
missed
tell
it.
a lot of stories though.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
time.
So you guys did great while I was gone. Better than it made me sad that it went so well. I was like, you guys don't need me.
That's what we said.
Oh my gosh, you're horrible.
Wow.
All right. Anyway, so to introductions here, we have the man that needs no introduction, but whose ego demands one. Sean Mike, you are CEO. Boom, roasted. We have Swy, America's most savage, washed-up sweetheart and marketing gal. Boom, roasted. And we have Brett Rutkowski, our COO, the alcoholic that disguises addiction by calling himself a tequila connoisseur.
Yes.
Boom, roasted. And you have
Wow.
me, Kyle Mann, and I'm back, baby.
We have Kyle Mann, and he's
thought
going to get
long-
boom roasted.
He thought long and hard into that.
He did.
I missed you guys.
Hey,
I
we
did.
also did go hard on you last
Louise.
time. We felt bad.
I'm not going to feel bad this time, though.
Nope.
Not after that intro.
Oh,
He called me an alcoholic, and he only talked about your ego.
I don't even think I have an ego, but
that's why it's a joke. That's why, yeah. No,
Grant, did you know this
you
was
guys are all,
happening?
you're not washed up. You have no ego, and you're not an alcoholic. Let's make that clear.
That
I do
was
like
a good
tequila,
segue
though.
into today's episode.
Yeah. Talking about failure. So today we really are. We want to talk about failure. I know I joke a lot about it on the podcast. I tell a lot of stories. Pretty much the only stories I tell on this podcast are failures. And I do.
That's a fact.
So, but I think that's a good thing. I think people need to talk about their failures more. I think worse than a failure is the inability to learn from that failure. I think the takeaways from that failure are the things that help you grow. So being comfortable with the fact that you failed and learned from it is a good thing, especially if you aspire to do something great, because nothing great comes without some sort of struggle. So I wanted to start off, I did some quick research, but research shows that most agents, real estate agents, fail in their first year as being agents. The three most common mistakes: inadequate prospecting, failure to market properties to lead to fast sales, and 3, not following up. So I just wanted to first focus on real estate. We are a real estate brokerage. So I want to start first with those 3 things and see if you guys agree with those top 3, if you would add any more, remove any, expand on any of those.
First off, that second one is horrible because
Failure to market properties that lead to fast sales.
if you price it right, it sells quick, right?
fair.
Like, no. So
That's
yes,
fair.
you have to be able to market. But I just when you said that one, I'm like,
The 3 P's,
That's
right?
what-
Price, presentation, promotion.
exactly. But that
So explain
as
explain
soon
that
as you
further.
said it, I'm like, oh, that's some legit research. But
It is legit research. I mean, I would agree with all 3 of those points.
So the 3 Ps, what were those?
Pricing, promotion, and presentation. That's the listing formula, if you will, to ensure that something's going to sell. So promotion, obviously, is the marketing piece. Presentation is not really something you can control. It's what the seller has to control. They make their bed in the morning. They put the toys away. They make the house not smell like wet dog, that type of stuff. And then pricing, there's always an indicator if you're priced accurately. And in this market, you can just make up a price and it's going to probably sell. But in a normal market, you have to, be within reason, and then you're going to have different variables. Like if people are driving by and not looking at the house, like not scheduling showings, you're off by a certain percentage. If people are looking and not sending offers, you're off by a percentage, and so on. So
Yeah. So would you add anything to that list?
I would add that people think they have more freedom than they have when they become self-employed, and they want to like live a fun, glitzy life of like talking about how free they are, but they don't treat their career seriously at all.
Yeah.
And we all know as self-employed or previously self-employed, that if you don't wake up in the morning and treat it like a job, you're not going to have one. So I think that's one thing I would add. And I think that's a really big tripping point is people will like get super excited. You know, they go up this attitude curve, super excited, and then they'll like slam down 60 days in, if they even make it 60 days. They didn't get anything done, and then they like try to pick it up, and then they just kind of phase out. And it's because they have bad habits. Their habits are just not for success yet.
Yeah, and so I do agree with those three to extent of number two, right? Because what you said is to a quick sale. Marketing is never going to 100% lead to a quick sale if it's not priced right. You can do all the marketing in the world and that property. So
two's incomplete.
Yeah. So most individuals don't even get to a listing to sell a property quick enough in the first year. So that's why I don't truly believe in and agree with that one. But the second, like, they don't do enough adequate prospecting versus
to get buyers.
Correct.
Most of the time they're going to work buyers first.
Yeah. It's an anomaly when a brand new agent comes in and they start taking on a lot of listings, right? But the follow up is key. The biggest thing, and this was my issue too, is coming into the real estate industry knowing, like, I came into like, oh, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to make my own schedule. And they, like Sean said, they don't treat it as an actual career. They almost treat it as a hobby that they'll do whenever they want to do it. And so that year goes by and they've only worked 4 hours a day, really, maybe one by the time you look at how
Real
long.
Work.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, and this was me when I started, is I didn't have systems process. I didn't have the right mentorship I didn't understand how to run a business, right? It was just, okay, I'm going to come in and find out what my broker tells me to do. And we all know most brokers they know what they're doing, but they're not the right person to train individuals. They've never had a successful business. That's not all. That's just a lot of them that are out there. And so I went to a broker that had a lot of experience, but her experience was only with for sale by owners, and that was it. And that's not my style. So it took me a lot longer to figure that out. But the biggest thing I see is, one, no discipline, horrible habit, like those things that all go, and it's just personal development that most individuals need before they get into real estate. And then understanding that it's not an easy, like they think, oh, I'm going to come in and it's unlimited income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll add to it though too, of people like think that they're being productive when they're really just looking for anything to do other than the thing they need to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, because they go, God, I'm so busy. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And they're working.
I wrote an email to my title company.
Yeah. Well, they're working like on instead of in.
Yep.
They're like, oh, well, I'm busy. I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing everything else, but they're not talking to people.
Yeah.
And you can't sell anything if you're not talking to people. So I would tell people, first off, like, stop lying to yourself and do the hard thing, because the hard thing's the thing you need to be focused on.
Yeah.
That's like, anytime you're in sales or any type, when your livelihood is dependent upon how many jobs you close or how many houses you sell. I think a lot of times, and I think you mentioned this before at some point at an orientation, where early on, I think people get caught up in this, like, you sell a big house and that means you can relax for a while.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I have enough income to last a few months.
Yeah,
that means I can kind of, even if it's subconscious, even if it's,
like, whoo, made it.
Yeah, I can relax now. I can like kind of,
I got a $10,000 check. I'm good for like 3 months. 3 months goes by real fast.
Yeah. So I think that could be, not having your funnel filled constantly would be an issue as well.
Well, people are too impatient. They're too short-sighted.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I learned in real estate to be really successful. When you have a conversation, this goes to point 3 of follow-up. When you have a conversation with an individual, most of the realtors who are starting, they're hungry. Like, they're out there, they want to get going today, right? And so when they talk to somebody and they go, oh, you know, I'm 6, 9, 12 months out, they go, okay. And then they forget about them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, like you need
yeah.
to like nurture that relationship, because in 9 months, you're going to be in the same position you're in today,
Yep.
except you just had somebody who's here. And you really need to shift to a long-sighted approach. Because if you're too short-sighted, everybody slips through the cracks, and you're constantly looking for that next instant instead of realizing that you're nurturing something that's long-term for, you know, actual continuous success.
Yeah, it turns into that commission breath, right?
It's a brutal way to live.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
you start treating every client as such, right? As your next commission, because you are hurting right now. You don't have enough in the pipeline. You haven't built a true business. And there's brain fart number 1.
Oh, that was quick.
That was a quick one. I didn't have one. I didn't have one all last episode.
Yeah.
So you get into that habit where you're chasing that quick pay, that quick cash, and you like Sean, you forget about those that are 9 months, and it's that roller coaster. You get something, even if it's a $30,000 commission okay, by the time you go out and you buy your new clothes and maybe get your new car, like it's gone, right? And so just, you know, for me, full transparency, I lived that for the first 2-3 years of my career. I didn't have enough. I mean, it took me 18 months to sell one property.
That must have sucked. It took me 42 days
luckily
for
I
my first paycheck.
Luckily I had
Subtle.
There's the ego.
luckily I had money set aside.
Yeah, no
that
kidding.
helps.
Yeah, so it's just staying off that roller coaster and understanding that the business is always there, and you only fail if you quit. Right? I didn't quit. I should have. I should have quit somewhere along the 18 months, but I'm just too stubborn to.
Yeah, I almost quit.
Yeah,
I mean,
so did I.
Like, I started in July of 2015. I sold 11 houses quick, and then I made nothing for 7 months. I made $6,000-$7,000 in commission from October until end of April of 16. And at the awards ceremony at the company I was at, I won Rookie of the Year, and I'm standing up there taking my Rookie of the Year trophy plaque thing with the CEO of the company, feeling like an absolute fraud because I hadn't sold anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I haven't even closed one deal at this company, and you guys are honoring me with Rookie of the Year because I sold 11 houses the previous 2 months. And I just felt like a total fraud. And then come like March, April, I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, you know, maybe the person that told me that I was going to fail if I didn't learn from them was right. And maybe I should just hang it up while we're in this situation and like go into a different industry, because maybe I do suck at real estate. Like, and those are the stories that like you start perpetuating in your mind when you start having failure after failure after failure, and time isn't really on your side towards success. And it's a really tricky, dangerous landscape. Like you have to get out of that and get into a mindset of like, what am I doing every day that's an income producing activity? Where am I actually spending my time instead of lying to myself about how I'm spending my time? And what's a story of positivity that I can tell myself every single day to shift out of this negative mindset? Because all of your actions every single day are going to be tied to the energy in which you're putting forth. And if you've got a negative energy, your actions suck. And if you've got a positive energy, you could be not as productive as peak, but you could very easily start to convince yourself out of that negative, so you get that positive traction. But
yeah, I had job offers lined up, right? Like making 50, 60 a year plus commissions and sales jobs, and something told me just like stick with it. I said, well, it came back to having to go like clock in and clock out every single day.
Yeah.
Make the phone
Sucks being a
calls
slave,
every.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'd rather be a slave to myself,
Right.
for being honest.
And you know, and having to make the dials. Like, yes, I got to a point where I liked making the dials in my business and connecting with people and stuff like that. So it took me a little bit.
I imagine
I took a job. I just never showed up.
I imagine like trying to, like getting a paycheck and then slacking off until the next time you need a page. I imagine it's like being in school, never doing your homework, never doing anything outside of the classroom itself, and then expecting to show up for the test and know what you're doing. Like that's.
I mean, it worked out for me, but
in college.
No, I dropped out of college.
How far did he make it?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, college.
Yeah, college.
No, I dropped out of
specifically.
college.
Yeah. See, that's where I broke because I could do that in high school, but it doesn't work in college.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So where you have been competing
My whole life.
your whole life.
Yeah.
How did you
Until
was
she
there a
became
moment
washed up.
until it became
Yeah.
Although you just signed up for another competition.
I
Did you?
signed up for a competition at the end of the month. Yeah, you were
Sweet.
late today. You didn't hear, but
Oh.
I'm just messing with you. But yeah, I'm doing a CrossFit competition at the end of the month.
We don't have hours at simpliHOM. We have get the job done.
Yes.
AKA text Brett at 11 o'clock at night saying, hey, by the way, I won't be
Hey.
there in the morning because my
Yeah.
flight is stuck.
Yep.
AKA I got stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So
What were you asking me?
well,
Sorry.
I was gonna say like competing your whole life, unless you are an absolute prodigy, at some point you had to fail
Yeah.
in that process. So how do you, somebody who's very competitive, like how did you handle the failure and how did you turn it into a positive? So maybe you tell a story about like a
Yeah.
time.
So I guess, with gymnastics, I went out on an injury. As I was coming back, I just kind of realized I just wasn't as passionate about it anymore. It was one of those that I remember we were supposed to go back on January 4th or so I thought. And the 3rd, my mom's like, hey, put your Leo on. You're going to practice. And I had a meltdown. It's like, no, it's tomorrow. So mentally, it was about time for me to be done with that. And I kind of knew I wanted to switch to cheer. So all of my cheer, all of the years, freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I was so lucky to be a part of an awesome program. Like we won nationals all 3 years. And my 4th year, we barely lost. So we got second. And that was probably my biggest failure because cheer's a year-round sport. And I'm going tryouts were less than a month after nationals. So you just jump right back into the next year. And at that age, I was 17. And so that was the biggest thing I had faced. And at that point, I had to realize, and it took a little bit, but cheer's not everything. I could have gone to a bigger college for cheer, but it was one of those that I had to realize, cheer really isn't everything. So you're either going for your education, for your future, or you're going to cheer somewhere and you're going to get something subpar. So that is how I overcame it. I had to just realize, sit down with myself and look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And know that's just not everything. Those successes are not everything. Those failures don't define you. So you just kind of had to take inventory.
Yeah.
Those are tough moments too. When you have to sit down and look in the mirror and have that reality talk with yourself and you go, yeah, this isn't what I signed up for.
I didn't clean my room for
or
3
this
months.
Yeah.
That's a little melodramatic, but I was 17. I'm at home. I was so sad.
Ice cream containers.
I don't know
all
if
over
I
the floor.
ever
Right.
actually cleaned my room. I think I was just throwing my crap in my closet until my mom was like, hey.
I know what's
my
under
bed
the
was
bed.
in my closet.
I didn't clean. I reorganized.
Reorganized through
Yeah.
chaos, yes.
Well, my bed was in my closet, so I had nowhere to stuff it.
Oh.
All the junk. Yeah. I had a huge closet.
Don't
They
make a joke.
didn't
Don't
build
make a joke.
They did not build this house proportionally, and so my bedroom, I had a queen size bed in there and all of my clothes and everything. It was
Wow.
really cool, and my
That's
room was
cool,
set up like
actually.
a lounge. I had a mini fridge and
She had a bar
Nice.
right.
with a tequila collection.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely
trying to
not.
envision this room and I just can't.
I'll find pictures for you one day.
Was Harry Potter, did it
Right.
feel like a biography for you?
Right.
Did it?
Literally,
Was
someone
were you
made a
under
joke
the
about that
stairs?
this past week. Someone's like, Sarah Wiley loves Harry Potter so much that she had to embody it growing up. I'm like,
Did you watch a
Maybe.
reunion?
I haven't yet. I was
Oh,
watching the trailer for it as you were walking
No
in,
way.
and
like
we were
80%
getting started.
of people are dead.
I've never
No,
even
it's not
read
that. A lot of the actors and actresses, 'cause they were older.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah.
One of
you
them
don't
died in
realize
the
that, though.
middle of filming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
After the first. So I do want to share.
That's a staffing nightmare.
Oh yeah, just people dying all the time.
Yeah.
No, just imagine like you're, it happens in movies, but imagine like you filmed like 7 months and then somebody dies and you haven't finished filming.
Didn't that happen in the Fast and Furious
Yeah,
movies?
Paul Walker.
Oh yeah. I've never seen any of those either, but
Me either.
What? Anyway, moving on. So
so heartbroken.
what? I do want to share it. So, do you guys have? And I want just not only just to be a sharing of failures, but specifically what you did to overcome it. In the hopes of hearing us talk about these failures, other people can be encouraged when they're feeling. Because man, especially if you have failure after failure after failure, when that starts adding up, you forget what it feels like to win, and it's hard to pick yourself back up after.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have a story that you would like to share about a failure that you've had, and how you overcame it?
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
Pick your favorite.
Pick your
favorite failure.
Yeah, I don't even know. I have so many. I was kind of laughing. Two things. One, this looks like my eye, and I'm like envisioning trying to put a contact in it.
Solid.
And I'm like, oh look, it's my eyelid, and I tried to get contacts a month
He has
ago.
And he
PTSD from
cannot
And I
it.
put it
can't
in
get a contact in my eyeball, so there's a failure. Failure story number one.
He hasn't overcome it yet.
Haven't overcome it. I'll let you know. No, I mean, I remember there's a lot, but I remember a point in my life in which I had so many failures after failures after failures that I literally couldn't remember what it was like to have $20. Like I asked someone if I could hold their $20 bill just so I could like envision myself having $20 because I couldn't get there. Like it had just been kick after kick after kick after kick, and I'm just like I have no idea. And I've overcome that one.
Yeah. Well, what did you like? What? Because I know you've talked about mantras, you've talked about books. Like
Yeah.
what in that situation, what got you out of
So
that?
in that situation, that was actually the point in time that I read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And I started to realize the little things about how the pathways are designed in the brain based off of thought patterns and otherwise. So I started researching that, and then I ended up getting a job, but at the same time I stumbled into Grant Cardone, started listening and getting those nuggets. It was a lot of self-development, really.
Yeah.
I think is what probably pulled me out of that. And just a will to not fail.
Yeah.
Like I always had a deep understanding that you don't fail if you don't quit. And so I was like, all right, well, if I don't quit and I keep going, and there was a lot of pressure. I mean, I had in-laws going, you need to just, put this dream of being an entrepreneur away, and you need to just go work a real job like everybody else. You need this, you need that. And I was almost considering going into the Air Force. Like I had met with recruiters, and I was like, maybe there's a way that I could do this. And then I was trying to get as an air traffic controller, and there's just all these different things. And I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I just knew that I wanted.
Still doesn't.
I just knew I wanted $20. And it's difficult, but the self-development piece is huge. I mean, I think if people would take the time that they're down, because it happens to all of us, and it doesn't matter where you are in life, there's always a rock bottom. Right. Whether it's circumstantially, mentally, emotionally, whatever. But if you take that time and you allocate that time to improving yourself and learning from people who are in a position in which you're not, then the only way, as cliche as it is up. It's
kind of weird that there's this feeling around self-help books when you say that you're reading a self-help book, that people are like, they feel weird about it. Like almost like dog you for reading a self-help book. And it's kind of a weird thing to like, I don't need advice from somebody. I think it's that whole philosophy. It's weird.
Well, that's ego.
I'm about to say.
Yeah. Well, that's ego.
So Sean doesn't have an ego.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things too, though, that people put way too much stock into what other people say about your life.
Yeah.
Like just like if somebody's not uplifting and supportive, then go find new friends. Yeah. That was one of the things that Enrique, one of the agents that was with me when we joined this, or when we started this thing, we were talking about the other night over a drink about the fact that like he was fortunate to go through, like, I guess we'll call it mentorship. It was really just on the job training. I would like send him a video and be like, this is how you do it. Stop calling me. And he persevered and he figured it all out. But every single time, like, I had just gone through those steps of like, quote, coming up or whatever they call it. And so like I told him ahead of time, like, all right, bro, like you're going to hit this point, and then your family and your friends are basically going to hate on you and disown you because they're trying to pull you back down to their level. So you need to be aware of the fact that this hate and everything's going to come at you. And he went directly through it. It was just like, it was almost being like, hey, there's a cloud right there and it's going to be really bumpy when you fly through it. And then you fly through the cloud and it's bumpy. It was just like back to back. And we were talking about it because one of his first ever clients was his cousin, and they don't talk to this day. Like the cousin, like flat out, is like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. And it's one of those things, like you have to disconnect from those people who are trying to hold you back, and you have to learn from people, because there are so many people who have gone through this journey, whether it's reading a self-help book and focusing on what that person's journey was, or just finding the closest person to you who personally you know that's gone through that and talking to them and learning from them. But also, you don't just have to learn from just a successful person. One of the big takeaways I had earlier this year was I talked to a CEO of a company who he's grown it from, I think 5 years ago, he had 2,500 employees. Today he has 10,000 employees. They're worth a bunch. Like they're doing 200
Bees.
Like they're
Bees.
doing $250 billion a year in revenue.
Wow.
And I was like, who was your mentor? And he goes, I just learned from every single conversation. And it doesn't matter who he's talking to. He could be talking to the janitor, and there's something you can learn from that individual. And so I think if you keep that open mind, these days, that's what I would say is the best way to learn, instead of just focusing on one individual.
That's powerful. Learn from everybody you come in contact with.
Yep.
They don't have to be, they don't have to be one step ahead. They could just, Brett, do you have any
Failures?
failure stories?
Bro, I got
He's got that orange bag. The orange bag.
The orange bag, yeah. I noticed it. It's in the office
bag,
now.
Yeah. It's going to be hung on the wall. So the biggest failure for me, and I don't know if I've told this on the podcast or not, but I've said this a lot, and it wasn't necessarily like, hey, one specific like action caused a failure. It was a lot of, and that's when I speaking of the bag, when I hit that rock bottom, sleeping out of an orange Nike duffel bag that's in the office, that is a real thing now. It was just a myth for a little bit. No, but going through that, and specifically the lowest point I ever had was the day that I had my car repossessed out of my now wife's, I don't know if I've told you this, but my wife, her driveway, right? So I was just staying there that night. We weren't even really dating. We weren't even official. And she walked outside the house in the morning, and she's like, Brett, where's your car? I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, she's like, it's not in the driveway. I was like, well, it must have been stolen. I knew exact. I knew.
Can I say how impressed I am by this tow truck driver to track you down, though?
Bro. Hey.
Kudos to that guy.
Yo, 100%. That's why I was like,
I hid my car in a friend's backyard for 3 months.
I didn't go to any house for a good 6 months. I never told this story. I actually traded cars with somebody. I was driving a Chevy. He couldn't, and it wasn't like purposely. This was like after I had the car for 3 months, and then I stopped. I couldn't make payments, but he had the car for like 6 months. I was driving his truck because he had bought a house and he couldn't park his truck in his HOA, like in his neighborhood. Yeah. So we just swapped cars for a little bit. They were the same price. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, let's go. And then he's like, hey, I need my truck back. I'm actually going to go buy a car. I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
And I purposely didn't go back anywhere around. I didn't go to my office. I worked from coffee shops. I was like, there's no way this guy's finding me.
Got him.
Yeah. So woke up that morning. We were actually about to go to get breakfast, and I don't even know what day. I think it was on a Saturday or something, like Saturday morning. And whatever, walk out to that. I lied to her, and then something just like hit me in the like the gut, like just tell her the truth.
Yeah.
And so broke down to her, told her everything that was going on. Like, you know, I've been paying her mortgage, stuff like that. Like I had a little bit of money at that point, but I was putting her finances and us going out and whining and dining her in front of my own to cause that. And so in that moment with me telling her and the way that she reacted by saying, she literally said, all right, what the f are you going to do about it? Right. Literally in those words.
Yeah.
And sorry, Grant, for making you bleep that, but he's writing down the timestamp right now. But what are you going to do about it? And so, like, I always envision that every time every time I fail in something or make a bad decision or need to take myself to the next level, like, what am I going to do about it? And so seeing her react that way and not judge me and not decide, oh, well, I'm only dating him, so because his car was repossessed and he can't afford that I'm just going to leave him. So it was in that moment that I said, well, one, like, this is the one I want to be with the rest of my life. And two, I said, I will never put us in a situation that will ever, ever, ever lead to this outcome, ever. And so that was my, like, put your big boy pants on and, like, let's get after it. Now, I'm not going to say that that hasn't led to more failures, of course, right? This last year wasn't the greatest for my personal business. Well, one of my personal businesses, but I'm in the process of revamping that and getting that going. But it all came from bad decision making, switching offers, stuff like that, right? And so I'm making sure that I'm able to learn from my failures and not, like, I was always the person that I'd get to that rock bottom and I'd linger and I'd let myself, like, boo-hoo Brett, like,
you know, it's kind of weird because in those moments, it almost feels good to be that way. And I've heard multiple people say this that are, like, depressed, but the attention that you get when you're, like, when you can tell other people can tell that you're down, like, you know, they reach out, they you know, they give you a little extra attention.
Coddling.
Yeah. And I think that some people get really caught up, and then when that becomes your reality, it's hard to get out of that.
I wouldn't say it's fun or
well, no, I'm not. Yeah, I don't agree with it, but I have heard.
Yeah, or
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see why that would be a thing. I personally have been almost called a robot these days because I've gotten to where I'm so solution oriented that if you punch me in the mouth, I'm gonna, like, instantly go to solution. Like, I don't even feel it anymore. I just go, oh, that didn't work, pivot, you know? And I think that's where you have to get, because the self-wallowing leads to the continued negative thoughts, which leads to the continued lack of production, which leads to 100%. The continuation of the same cycle over and over and over again.
Yep. And that was me in those moments, right? And so now it's when I get to a point and I'm like, you know, and I figure out that the decision I made was not the right one, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to sit there and, like, what am I going to do about it to make it right or to fix the situation or to come up with a solution, right? It's if you're not learning, like, a failure doesn't even have to be like a mistake that you made or hitting rock bottom. A failure could be we talked about this the other day, being okay, and you said it, and I'm like, all right, well, yes, it was in a argumentative conversation via text. It wasn't really an argument, but it wasn't an agreement. And he's like, why can't we just accept the fact that we made a wrong decision? I'm like, Sean, write that down. Like, you're right. That's how I live, but I'm in the moment and I just, you know, but just understanding that it could just be a decision. You made the wrong decision. Don't linger on that like I was, and fix it. Come up with a new solution.
It's hard to have that attitude when you're not surrounded by people who share that same mindset too. When you when you have a failure in your life, and the sentiment of, okay, let's get over this and, like, work on a solution, when that isn't reciprocated in the group of people you've surrounded yourself with,
get a new group.
Get a new group. Yeah. I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's just being okay. It's being okay, acknowledging and owning your failure or your mistake or your bad decision, and moving on.
It's just a pride thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like people have so much pride in what their decision is.
Or what their work is.
Whatever it is. Like I used to dabble. So my dad's been in the music industry for a really long time.
Sean dabbles in a lot of things.
And when you're younger and everybody goes to that stage of like, I'm going to be a singer. Right?
Yeah.
Remember that stage?
Had a band called Bedroom Clothing.
I knew I couldn't sing.
Surprised me at all. And his bed was in his closet. No, but like I would go through all this hard work and I would like try so hard to write a song and I would like want my dad to be impressed with it. And instead of not that he was never impressed or supportive, but he would for sure critique it.
Right.
And when that critique would happen, I'd
That's
be
the
like,
worst, ain't it? Especially from your dad.
but it's
Right.
like it's perfect, and like you start getting all defensive about it. And I think it's a nice thing to realize that critiques come from a good place.
Yeah.
And these like sometimes negative feedback is what you need.
Yeah, I hate when
I got a
somebody
lot of
asks.
that growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In gymnastics,
I
I was getting yelled at by
yeah.
grown men all of the
Constantly.
time.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
My wife too. Same.
Like
she
I
had,
was stone cold. Like until I was in college, I didn't
European-
cry.
like hardcore.
You didn't cry until college?
Like I would cry. But what I'm saying is
God,
like
I cried before college. College was the only time I didn't cry.
that's what I'm saying. Like for the longest
didn't
time,
go.
I was
I was
just
too
like
drunk.
I was so unemotional. So
With Kyle.
anyone could yell at me, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like
Yeah.
at 10 years old, a grown man is yelling so hard in your face that spit is flying.
They have a quote.
But it would just piss you off, and then you would show
I was
them
a
off,
rock
right?
star.
And
Exactly.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you'd be better.
Right.
Yeah, like
And
I'm-
to me, that's a solution mind.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you get yelled at and critiqued, and you go, "I'll show you." And
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I'll
didn't really have
fix it.
time
Do
for
better.
pride.
yeah.
There's a quote
I
from
bleeped
Solomon.
myself. You guys can all take a note.
In giving advice, seek to help, not please your friend.
Say that one more time.
Yeah. Yeah.
In giving advice, seek to help, not please your friend.
Man, people pleasing is a death sentence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say earlier. Like I hate when people come to just go to people for advice and then they give you their actual opinion about it, and it's not what you wanted to
Yeah.
hear, and you
Right.
get so upset. Like,
You're like,
well,
wait
then
a minute.
don't ask. It's like I
You know your
got
friends you have to talk to
Yeah.
that are gonna fluff you up.
Yeah.
And I
So-
love this. This made me really comfortable telling people my true opinion or like giving you the actual advice you should hear or I think you should hear if you're coming to me for it is obviously you always want to say your wife looks beautiful. But my wife kept saying like, don't just tell me to tell me. Like the first time I was like, all right, the first time I do this, she's really going to hate me. No, she was cool about it. She's like, all right, so she was at,
I do that
like,
stuff
how do
all
I
the
look?
time.
And I said, well, that doesn't really kind of go together. So let's change the top,
Yeah.
you know, but now it's okay. Now I know that I've done it. She didn't get by it. Right. She didn't get upset. So I've been okay. Now, obviously you have to know who you're speaking to. Sometimes you just,
There's a way.
yeah, you have to be polite or
Miller's colorblind, so I'll be like, "Does this outfit look good?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You're wrong."
you're wrong. You're lying. I
I'm
purposely mismatched.
I'm not big on resolutions, but this is stupid. The day before New Year's, I was like, I want to make a pact with myself that in 2022, I am so honest and direct with people that I get a new nickname. That's like, and I couldn't come up with a good nickname. So you're really creative. That it would be like, I don't know, like no BS Sean or something like that. It's just like, he's just going to tell you how it is, whether you want to hear it or not. Cause truthfully, life is so much easier when you just like say what you mean.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to sugarcoat it, beat around the bush, make people feel better. Like, and there's a way to say things without being an ass, but but you can be very direct and say, hey, I don't like this. And then it saves the whole back and forth of the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, then to bring that full circle, it becomes easier to call yourself out on BS, right? To call yourself out on your failures.
Yeah.
If you can't be honest with somebody that's asking you for your opinion and you can't even give your own opinion, you're never going to give yourself your own opinion.
Yeah.
You're never going to think, oh, well, maybe I did fail. No, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? But it's not.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you're not making money.
Yeah.
It's the reason your business isn't growing.
It's hard to find that harmony because the extreme of that is constantly doubting yourself, you know? So finding that middle ground is, I think, a combination of surrounding yourself with people that We'll give you your honest feedback. There for the longest time. Did you guys watch The Truman Show?
Nope.
No.
What?
It's just you here.
All right, Grant. Yeah, just here. Of
course,
Grant
would have watched
So The Truman
it.
Show, a great movie with Jim Carrey in
It's
it,
a
but
movie?
essentially, yeah.
I mean, I know what it is. So
thought it was a show.
I've seen bits and pieces of it,
See
but
what
I've
it's
never watched the whole thing,
explanatory.
so I'm not going to tell you I've watched the
So
I've
it's
watched
essentially his whole life is a lie. He's on a big movie set about the size of an entire state. Everyone in his life is an actor, and everything is fake. Like his whole life that he lives is fake.
Is it called America?
all I can picture right now, the only isn't it like a satellite or a camera falls out of it?
Yeah. So it's kind of like there for a while. There for a while.
I need to watch it.
I was in high school and I was like, I wonder, am I just really stupid and people are too nice to let me know? Like, is that just a
Could
thing?
be.
It was
I
just
wonder that all the time.
like, are people just really? Was I hired because they need a diversity hire? We gotta have one stupid guy on staff. No.
And then we had this conversation last night.
Oh yeah.
We won't
Yeah.
know that one though. It's fine.
Yeah, that's all right. It's all good. Yeah, I mean there's I think the gist of today should be that failure is good if you learn
Failure's
from it.
great.
Yeah.
If you learn from it. I would add that caveat. Because if you fail over and over again and repeat the same failure over and over again, at that point the failure becomes a failure. I don't think a failure is a failure until you've decided not to learn from it or
Insanity.
choose not to.
You become insane.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and to take it back to the top, it's 89%, right, of agents fail in the first 3 years.
Yep.
Eek.
yeah, that's not a good success
No,
rate.
it's terrible.
And the average real estate agent makes less than 30 grand a year. Bro, you can go to Walmart and make more money.
Yeah.
yeah,
than
the
the average
average,
real estate agent.
full-time real estate agent makes $63,000 a year.
Yeah.
Full-time,
Well,
supposedly.
And here's the biggest thing. Everyone comes into and this was me, came into real estate thing like, oh, I'm going to own my own schedule. I'm going to work whenever I want, this, that, and the other.
Nah.
And then I went into, okay, now I have to work all the time.
yeah.
But now that I know how to run a business, how to build a business, how to truly delegate, I'd work less now if I was full-time in real estate than I did 5 years ago.
Yep.
Right? Just knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
So it's everyone that comes in is going to go through those cycles. If they truly get the right mentorship, like developing themselves and can learn from their mistakes, their failures, they will get to a point in their career, as long as they keep pushing it forward, where they will have systems, processes, things dialed in that they don't have to work 120 hours a week.
I think the only way that you ever actually get to success is to drop the fear of failure and embrace failure, because that's it. Because if you don't, you're going to be so stuck trying not to fail. Like, I can't tell you how freeing it is. You know, people go, I don't know how you take on the risk or took on the risk to build this company. Like, it's a big undertaking, everything else. And if you look at it and you go, what's the worst that can happen? I've already been to the
Define your
bottom.
fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Huge proponent.
Like, if you've
Define
already,
it.
if you've already been
I
to
got
the
to
bottom,
siphon water from the neighbor. Like, we've already done
yeah,
that. Like,
already been there.
Yeah.
And now with the knowledge I have, I could rebuild this quick.
I could get rid of everything that I own today as long as I had the tools. As long as I had the tools that I needed to rebuild. And even then, I could find the tools
Yeah, you
again.
don't need
But
the
there's
Y'all sound
no
like the Michael
fear.
Scott Paper Company
You have the
from
knowledge.
The Office. He's like, I can build 100 companies, but you can't get rid of this one.
On that note, we have Sean, Sarah Wiley Armstrong, Brett Rukowski, myself, Kyle Mann, and Grant. I didn't forget about you. This is Grant,
Say
our
what's up,
producer,
Grant.
whose horrible taste in TV shows is only followed by his horrible taste in hockey teams.
Hey guys, it's Swy. Thank you for joining us this week, and we really hope you got some useful information and we made your day a little bit better. If you're interested in joining the movement of realtors getting their time and life back, check us out at joinsimplihome.com on the browser, at simpliHOM on socials, or in the description. See you next week.